I don't know who you are, but welcome to the Irish Photography Podcast. Sit back, relax, and listen about cameras, gear, settings, stories, and all things photography. Join Dermot and Darren on Ireland's Best Photography Podcast. Let's go.
And you're very welcome to the Irish Photography Podcast, and it's episode 98, and I'm Darren, I'm your host this evening, and I'm joined, as always, by my compadre in Limerick, Mr. Dermot O'Donovan. Dermot, how are you getting on, buddy?
Very good, man. I've never been so happy in my life in the last couple of days ever, because I managed to get a Chinese takeaway today for my dinner. Chicken curry, sweet and sour chicken, fried noodles, fried rice. I mean, I just went to town on Chinese. I couldn't finish it all, but I saved it for tomorrow. So, oh man, it was so good. Good.
How long is it since you had Chinese? 4 weeks.
About 4 weeks.
Wow. Jesus, yeah. Did your taste buds know what hit them? Like, amount of MSG I'd say you had is incredible.
My mouth just had a wet dream, like, you know, it was brilliant.
That's brilliant. And, you know, Dermot, we're here this evening, buddy, because it's not just you and me. We decided again, you know, we're still in isolation, so let's see how others are getting on in isolation. And there's somebody that joining us tonight that I really wanted to speak to for a long period of time, and we'll go through the reasons as to why as we go through it. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our guest this evening, Mr. Michael Shainblum. Michael, how are you getting on, buddy?
I'm doing good. How's it going? Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Thanks for coming on, buddy.
Thanks for coming on, yeah. How are you getting on so far with isolation? Are you bored yet? Are you looking at any new ideas? Are you working through all the backlog of amazing footage that you have?
You know, I haven't been bored yet. I was upset that, I mean, this happened to everyone, but, you know, every single travel trip got canceled. And that was a bummer because I had my car completely packed and ready to go right as San Francisco got put onto lockdown, and we were the first city in the US to be on lockdown as well. Everything was packed. I still have the cargo thing on my car on the roof. Everything was packed and ready to go, and then I got a call from a friend who said, "Oh yeah, we're stuck." And that's when the situation got pretty serious over here. I was a little worried at first because most of my jobs are travel photography and video related, and they all got canceled. And I said, oh boy, what am I going to do for, you know, work and whatnot? But I've taken... I don't know how long it's been right now. It's been a few weeks, right? Has it been 4 weeks? Something like that?
Yeah.
It's been 4 weeks for us anyway here, nearly 5. So probably around the same, if not a bit shorter, yeah.
Yeah, so, you know, I was worried at first and I was worried I was going to get bored or not have enough stuff to edit or just not sure what to do with my time, but it's actually been kind of a nice break, to be honest. I have dug a little bit into my archives and started working on some new video footage. Like, I was able to release a new time-lapse film today, and to be honest, if I had left on a trip, there's no way I would have spent any time editing this month. It would have been traveling for a month or two. I've just been working on tutorials and just still keeping up with other photographers and chatting, and really it's a huge bummer not being able to go out and shoot. That part really it does suck, but I've been trying to, you know, there's not much we can do besides make the best out of the situation. Whether it be, you know, learning a new skill in post-processing or working on stuff that I already have, I'm just trying to make the best out of it and stay positive with it, you know.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Do you find yourself...
Go on, Dermot.
Sorry, I was just going to say, do you find yourself needlessly scrolling through absolute pure shite online, just pure rubbish, just wasting away an hour or two for no apparent reason? Because I found myself doing that recently. It's a nuisance.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I would recommend against that.
Yeah.
So would I.
You can stay on, I would recommend, you know, be on social media to chat with people and keep up with friends, but oh man, reading the headlines and reading what other people are writing and just the message boards of people arguing is
yeah
not fun to look at. As soon as this thing started, I saw people were arguing, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to be a part of this part. I'm going to keep my distance from that from that
and I suppose
of what's going on.
Absolutely, I fully agree with you. It's the right way to be too, because if you get trapped up in all this, then basically you're not thinking about yourself, and you use this time, as you said, to go through your stuff that you've got, edit things, put things together that you normally wouldn't have done. And I suppose actually before we even get into those, for anybody that doesn't know who you are, who is Michael Shainblum? Tell us a bit about yourself, I suppose, in regards to photography.
Oh wait. I don't know. I take pictures and make videos. I like time-lapse a lot. Time-lapse is pretty fun. Aerial, travel. I don't know how to describe myself. I just take pictures of cool nature things and city stuff and
yes.
When did you get
anything
your
that
first camera?
seems interesting to me.
Yeah.
When did you get your first camera?
My first camera that I started using every single day was when I was 14. I got a DSLR.
Yeah.
It was a Canon Rebel XT. That was an awesome camera, and I brought that thing everywhere. I brought it like in a backpack to school. But before that, I was given a film camera by my father. It was an old Minolta film camera, and I did own that, but I just didn't really have the ability to use it that much, just because I couldn't buy film. So that was technically my first camera, but the first camera that I used on a regular basis was the Canon Rebel XT.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And
It's a fun camera.
You've obviously learned quite a lot, so because you picked up a camera at a young age, and you did you start mainly looking at things around you and saying, okay, I'd like to take a picture of that, or did you start finding you're being creative right from the get-go and taking pictures of different things with the camera?
I've always been interested in art and creating things, especially at a very early age. So, at first it was doodling and painting and watercolors and sketching, and then I got into sculpting and graphic design once I, got a little bit more versed with a computer. And I would edit pictures from like a really terrible camera. I had an old Olympus camera. That was technically my first camera, I guess, is this old Olympus that my mom gave me, and that was a 1 megapixel camera.
1 megapixel, wow.
Yeah. We have prints from it that I took when I was in the 6th grade, and it's prints from New York, and they're 1 megapixel prints, and they look like they're like that big, and they're sitting in our living room, and they're pixelated that big. They're only that big.
That was my next question. That was my next question.
But I used that all the time, and I had so much fun editing the pictures. And I used a program, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of it, called Fireworks.
No, I haven't.
So initially, you know how Adobe owns Flash now, right? Adobe Flash.
Yeah.
Well, initially there was a company that made Flash called Macromedia. And that Flash was kind of that was their claim to fame. I don't think they exist anymore. I think they were literally bought out by Adobe for Flash. But they had another piece of software that was kind of a competitor to Photoshop, but it was not very good. Fireworks. And that's what I used to edit pictures, and I didn't have it at home. We had a few copies of it on my middle school computers, the school computers in the little computer lab area. They couldn't afford Photoshop because it was super expensive for a license. So they had a school license for Fireworks, and I used to bring these 1 megapixel images to this computer lab and edit them using Fireworks, using just ridiculous gradients and colors. And so that was actually my first start to, in a sense, photo processing, is just messing with these tiny little files on my middle school computers.
Wow. But you had so much fun doing it, I'd say.
And I know I'm rambling because the initial question was a little different, but
no, but it's all relevant, you know. It's interesting to know, I suppose, from an evolution point of view too, because if we can, I suppose, understand where the basis has come from, then you can see how you would have added on different levels, I suppose, at each step as you would have went on to, you know.
I really just became obsessed with taking pictures. When I had that DSLR, I brought it I would take pictures of everything. It didn't matter what it was. Anything that I found remotely interesting, and it could have been the smallest thing. Like I could have looked at one of the school trash cans, and maybe the side of the trash can had a little bit of rust, but that rust had this really intricate texture to it. I'd sit by the trash can and take a picture of the rust on there. Or if a friend was eating food and was laughing, I was like, oh, that's an interesting moment of my friend laughing right there. And I just became obsessed with the process of taking photographs. That's really it. I really fell in love with it. It took maybe a week before I was obsessed. And then every single day, almost every single day in high school, I took pictures with that camera. I always had it with me. It didn't matter where I was going. It had to be with me.
Wow.
Do you know what? Now that I think of it, he sounds like the guy from that Kevin Spacey film. Is it Beautiful or something? He's following the plastic bag. Do you know that film? What's it called?
American Beauty.
That's it. He's like the dude following the plastic bag with the camera, and he's taking pictures and video of it. That's what the way you were describing it. That's what came into my head.
I'm sorry.
But you know, I think it's really interesting because, you know, you're not seeing things like everybody else would walk by. So, you know, for argument's sake, when we look at the landscape, and, you know, I think we've said it to Dermot a couple of times on the podcast, that when you are a landscape photographer, you look at things differently. You're looking at the sky constantly. You're looking for the light constantly. You're looking to see where's it going to fall? Where can I go? And stuff like that. But then when you start looking at innate objects, but finding something creative and beautiful within that, then straight away you can see there's an eye there for a photograph. And you know, I think you've done a good explanation of where it would come from. And then obviously seeing what you've created right now up to this point, it's interesting to see where it would have started from, because you'll find something that everybody else might walk over or walk by, and then bang, there's something of beauty in there.
Yeah, you know, I was taking pictures of a lot of different stuff, and I guess some of the pictures I was taking would be classified as landscape photos, but I wasn't really thinking of it in terms of landscape photography. I was just thinking of it as another form of taking pictures of something. Especially growing up in San Diego, it's a beautiful place to be. You know, we have nice beaches. They're very clean. They're very flat. You know, we've got palm trees and some deserty type spots, but there's nothing like San Diego's landscapes. They're not super dramatic or epic, or, you know, I mean, there are things to photograph there, but in general, there's, you know, some interesting rock formations on the beach, and then there's stuff like 2 hours out into the desert. But I grew up in a suburb in San Diego, and we didn't have any of that stuff, and I didn't have access to a car to go around places. So, yeah, I was just finding things that I found interesting around my house and around the street and around the places I could go, you know, like my school. So a lot of it was those smaller scenes of just textures on a wall, trash cans, a little bit of like a rundown building, you know, the way light changes by reflecting off like a glass, or bugs, like macro bugs in the backyard. I was just finding things that I found interesting. But at the time, I don't think I even knew I think I was in a little bit of a bubble where I didn't really have the opportunity to travel to crazy places all the time. And I hadn't ever like hiked up a craggly mountain peak or seen all these dramatic landscapes. So when that side opened up, when I was able to finally travel and go camp and go backpack, it opened up a whole new world that I didn't think, you know, I didn't even know that existed when I was a kid taking these pictures. I was kind of in my own little world, just looking at what was around me, you know? Yeah.
And I suppose, you know, moving on then from there, right, when you look at the things that you had an eye for and a flair from, and moving through your career, I suppose, you know, you've been taking photographs from a young age, but how did you start working then with a number of different companies and different brands and such like that? How did that evolve into that side of your career, let's just say?
Basically, the start of it was I was 16 and I wasn't getting a job. Like, I applied to places and no one really wanted to hire me. So, I needed a little bit of money. So I ended up just starting to take pictures for people. If somebody needed senior portraits, I would offer up taking pictures for, small fee. And then that got me into event photography and wedding photography and band photography and action sports. And I said, and I was already kind of earning a little bit of money in photography in high school. And then at that point I said, well, you know what? I think this is a career for me because I really enjoy it. And I didn't think I was very good at anything else, to be honest. So I was like, well, I think I found something.
It was handy you were good with the camera. So yeah.
I'm like, all right, I think I'm all right at this. I think, I can make it work. So anyways, I kept doing it, and I decided to go to photo school. And I went to Brooks Institute in Santa Barbara, which doesn't exist anymore, but it was a really nice photography school for a long time. It was mostly for commercial photography, though. It wasn't for landscape. Like, you didn't go there. If you wanted to be a landscape photographer, that was not the place to go. This was for studio portraiture, product photography, a lot of different lighting patterns in studio, commercial stuff. And through the time of being at that school, I kind of realized over time I didn't really like doing that very much. Like, I did it and I trained and I learned how to, do that stuff. But I spent most of my time outside just doing my own projects in the Santa Barbara mountains and on the coast. And a lot of the time it would result in me slacking off on my photography projects to do my own photography projects that were landscape. Yes. And all the time I'm training to be this commercial photographer, realizing I don't actually like it that much. I don't really enjoy it. And having this conflict of, well, I like landscape photography, but I'm training to be this type of photographer. And a lot of people are also telling me that it's not a good idea to be a landscape photographer. There's really no career in that. It's more realistic to do the studio stuff and the commercial stuff. And to be honest, it's not like that was bad advice. It was advice that came from the right place, because realistically, they're right. Landscape photography, it's a really tough career. It's a lot more practical to get into wedding photography, portrait, product. This is things that people need on a regular basis. That type of photography doesn't just go away, whereas landscape photography, it is pretty hard to sell yourself to companies and say, I take pictures of mountains. Do you want them? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah. I guess I got lucky in that the whole time I was doing behind the scenes video projects and little product things and making a little bit of money here and there. I wasn't really happy. And then all the personal time I had was dedicated to shooting time-lapse and getting out there and capturing the Milky Way. And it was pretty early where I don't think a lot of people realized that it was possible to shoot the Milky Way. This is like 2009, 2010.
Okay.
The time when I would post a Milky Way picture and people thought it was CGI. People don't think it's CGI anymore. They know it's like, oh, you can capture the Milky Way with your phone. But at the time, people didn't even know that. Most people hadn't even seen a picture of the Milky Way with the colors. They didn't even know that was there up in the sky. So I got lucky, and I was posting those pictures just for friends and family on social media, Facebook, and Instagram wasn't around at the time. It was mostly Facebook and Flickr.
Okay.
And those pictures started getting picked up by blogs and news sites like space.com, the Weather Channel. And so my work started getting outside of the realm of social media where people started seeing it.
Brilliant.
And that kind of started leading to some jobs here and there, especially with the videos, like the time-lapse videos. Those would get really popular as well. People would start asking if I could do that same thing for them. Like a company would reach out and say, hey, can you shoot a time lapse for us, or can you shoot a video for us, or hey, can we use your Milky Way photo, can we license it for something? And it was really great for a while, and that started happening while I was at the end of college for me. So I was just about done training as a commercial photographer, and I started getting a little bit more popularity online. Clients started reaching out. There was a little bit of word of mouth. Agencies started catching on, and I kind of started saying to myself, you know what? I think this is possible for a career. I think I don't have to do these studio shoots that I don't enjoy at all, and maybe I can make a career out of landscape photography. And sure enough, it's just sort of kept going. And of course the industry since then, that was 2012 or 2013 when I really started getting work. It's changed quite a bit in 7-8 years. It's changed a lot in 7 or 8 years, but we're still going, and hopefully once this whole pandemic is over, there'll be a bigger influx of people needing images and videos, and the conferences will come back, and workshops and whatnot.
And out of all the brands and things that you've worked with, and all the showcasing of the images, or even projects that you've worked from maybe a landscape point of view, or maybe from a time-lapse point of view, or even a product point of view, is there a favourite out of all of those, just from a creative point of view, that you enjoyed making the most?
Like with a brand or personal? Or both?
Like brand or personal, whichever. But I guess was brand right now, because you've worked with different companies, so they might give you a remit for something to do, and you do it, but you've really enjoyed to do it because it really found a creative side of you. Or maybe you don't have a favourite from those because you may not have enjoyed it because it was commercial.
What's funny? Most of the commercial stuff that I've done, I've really enjoyed, because I've kind of set myself up in a position where if somebody reaches out to me, they want me to shoot the types of things that I like shooting usually, because I like shooting time lapse, and I like shooting landscape photography, and I like shooting cities. And when people see these videos and these photos, they reach out because that's what they want. So I've been very lucky in that, to where I'm not putting out personal work that I don't like, to where somebody would reach out and be like, hey, can we use that? That I like everything that I shoot. So when companies reach out, usually I've gotten a decent amount of creative control to come up with my own shots. And it's usually taking, like, for example, oh man, I don't know how much I can, certain projects are under NDA, so I can't say certain ones, but like for example, Nikon, let's take Nikon. So I did some work with Nikon, was it 2018 mostly? Either way, 2018, and I think a little bit of 2019. And they just said, we like your images. We like your photos, and we like your time lapses, and we think you'd have fun using our camera. I said, I've never used a Nikon before. And they said, you want to try it out? And then, if you like it, we can talk about doing some projects. And I used it, got used to it in about 10 minutes, said, wow, this is a great camera. All right, I'm sold. Let's do some stuff. And they just said, we just like what you do, so just make cool stuff. Like, they didn't tell me, you have to go shoot that. You have to go shoot this. And I think if they did that, I would probably be less inclined to want to do the project. They just said, just make cool stuff. Like, go we love your stuff above the fog. We love the Milky Way. We love, go on a trip somewhere and just have fun with it. And that's been a lot of projects, actually, where companies just say, look, if we give you too much of exactly what we want, we're not going to get the creativity out. We're just going to get something totally manufactured. And so that's been good. There have been a few projects where somebody needs a very specific shot. They've hired me to go get it. I give it to them, and then what's done is done. But I've been lucky that most of the projects are, they're creative, and a lot of the times when I'm doing the projects, they feel personal, because I'm putting a lot of work and effort into making them creative and putting my own spin on the stuff. So tough to pinpoint one specifically, but the Nikon one was fun. That was a recent one.
Okay, that's very interesting. Yeah, so look, we're going to take a very quick break there. We'll be right back to hear more about your amazing story from our guest, Michael Shainblum, after a word from our sponsors. Are you tired of running out of power at that crucial moment? Do you need to charge 2 batteries simultaneously, or charge on the go while in your car? the award-winning ProCube 2 from Hainel has got you covered. Available for Canon, Nikon, Sony and Panasonic. Visit hainel.ie. And you're very welcome back to the Irish Photography Podcast. And Michael, we were talking in part one in regards to the early part of, how you started out in photography. And one of the things that I suppose, I'd like to know more about is something that Diarmuid actually, and you know what, Diarmuid, you can ask the question because you've really enjoyed one of the aspects of what Michael has gotten very, very good at over the years, and he mentioned it a moment ago, which is time lapses. So
yeah, for me, like, I only started doing time lapses back in maybe before we went away to Norway in November. So I bought the Rhino slider, the Traveler Pro, which will fit a mirrorless camera. So my Canon ESR works in it absolutely perfect. So I've kind of got that bug to kind of get better time-lapse photography, and seeing your videos then is just absolutely just inspirational. They're unbelievable. Where did you get started with time-lapse photography, and how did it evolve?
So the first time I did a time-lapse, it was kind of an accident. It wasn't really an accident. It was a very poor solution to a really stupid problem. So I really wanted to make videos in high school, but I could not afford a video camera. I did not have any camera that shot video. None of the cameras that I owned shot video at the time. Because at the time the Rebel XT and all that, like they couldn't shoot video.
Okay.
This is before any sort of DSLR video. And even my cell phone, like, the video wasn't good enough to, like, you couldn't even, if you took a picture of your face, it would just look like 4 pixels, So I really wanted to get started editing videos to music and things, and I realized, what I could do, though? A video is essentially just a lot of pictures played back quickly, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's a bunch of pictures played back at 24 frames per second. So what I did was I started doing slideshows with my camera. I would take pictures of things happening. I actually, at the time when I started this, I had moved on from the Canon Rebel XT, and I was using a Canon 30D. I think it was 30D. And it was like a camera that was really quick. It was made for action sports.
Yeah. And
I was using that a lot for skateboarding. And so what I would do is I would take these sequences of these skateboarders doing tricks, and the camera could shoot like 5 or 6 frames per second. And at the time that was really quick. I think it was like 5 or 6 frames per second. And I would play that back in kind of like a stop motion stop motion look, and I would edit it together using, I think it was Windows Movie Maker or whatever, and I would have these slideshows of these skateboarders doing tricks set to music, and I would take these like sequences of clouds, and I would just click the shutter every 2 seconds for like 30 minutes. I literally did that, where I just stood by the tripod and I looked at and I looked at a timer, and I just kept clicking the shutter, and I made these stop motion videos that essentially were the start of time lapse. That's how I got into it. That's pretty cool. I just wanted to start making videos, and I thought, well, this would be cool. We can show the motion, and it's kind of cool stop motiony, and I was really into photography, so it really brought in that photography element. And it was essentially my solution to a problem that obviously that problem doesn't exist anymore. You can shoot video on every single device that exists right now, in high quality 4K, but at the time I just didn't have the ability to. I could not afford like those camcorders were too expensive at the time. That was the start of it. That was in high school, and then really the game changer was when the Canon 5D Mark II came out.
Yeah, that was huge.
And I bought one of those cameras. I saved up all of my money, and I spent it all on that camera. And then I used that camera for everything. I started getting into real time lapses with an actual trigger remote, an intervalometer. I did not know that device. I didn't know that device existed before, and I was just clicking the shutter because I thought that's what you had to do, is you just kept clicking the shutter. I didn't realize a device can do that for you.
Yes.
So I bought one of those devices. I started shooting little HD video clips on my Mark II, and that's really when I got heavily invested into video and time lapse. I was obsessed with motion and editing together the videos in at the time I switched over to Adobe Premiere, and that's really when I got started with it. Was I guess at the time when I took it really serious. Like my first time lapse was probably 2006 or 2005. Wow. But when I got really into it, I would say 2009 is when I started investing a lot of time into it and got serious about it.
Okay, so since you started investing a lot of time and effort into it, what kind of gear do you use for your time-lapse photography now? Would you use a Rhino slider, or is there other companies, or is it Syrup? Is another company that use sliders or something?
Yeah, a lot have come out over the years. At the time of when I was first getting started, there were only two. There was Kessler, and Kessler was really a company for higher end production houses and teams. Their sliders were like 5-10 grand.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
I couldn't afford that. But Dynamic Perception, they had this makeshift kind of slider that was, they built at the time, they built kind of in their garage. It was like a family company, very local, out in Ann Arbor. And I was doing a commercial for a drink company. It was like a little, like these sort of syrup mixes and whatnot. Okay. And we made this little commercial, and we ended up buying one of these motorized sliders for these motorized time lapses. And the commercial, the client ended up paying for the slider for that commercial, and then I kept it after. So it was a,
as you do,
that actually does happen on certain commercial projects. I mean, a lot of things, if you have to expense something or it's in the budget, that this is, you're buying this for this project. So that's what we did, and I ended up, I barely got paid anything for the actual project itself, but most of that went towards buying this little slider from this company. And then I used that same slider, the Dynamic Perception. It was the Dynamic Perception Stage 0. And I used that for everything. And it was just a piece of metal with a little cart on top. And it was it was pretty difficult to use. You had to, it didn't have any of the functionality that any of these newer devices have, where, these newer devices, you can input where you want the shot to stop and where you want it to start and what the interval is. This thing was like this little box with like ones and zeros and numbers.
Oh, man.
And you have to like set it to a certain speed, and the way you count how many shots it's going to take is by counting the little teeth on the belt, because there's like 300 teeth on the belt. So if you did if the thing was moving and taking a shot, each tooth on the belt meant you were going to take 300 shots. It was like crazy calculations that you had to do to run the shots.
Oh, wow.
That was the first slider I owned. And also what was funny is there wasn't a way to start or stop the shot. It's not going to do that by itself. So if you let the motor run, it would just keep, like, as soon as the cart got to the end of the slider, it would just keep trying to go until it burnt out the motor. And that happened to me one time where I would set myself a timer if I was shooting a Milky Way time lapse, where in 2 hours I would have to go check on the slider to make sure that it wasn't close to the end, so that it wouldn't burn out the motor. And one time I fell asleep and I didn't check my timer, and then I woke up and the motor had burnt out. So it happened to me. Shortly after that, they developed little like stopper blocks and whatnot. And then the technology came out where you could actually input data into this device telling it the interval, and you could keyframe the shot. And all this new technology just came so quick and made it so easy. So I still use Dynamic Perception now. I still use their more advanced equipment that they've come out with over the years. They've really innovated. Emotimo is another company that I've worked with that has some great stuff, and they've also innovated their technology a lot. Since then, other companies have come out like Syrup and Rhino. I personally haven't used those just because they kind of do the same thing that the devices I have do. And also, I've been working with these companies for so many years, just directly, that they've been a part of my career for a long time, so I've kind of stuck with them. I haven't really tried I've heard good things about the Rhino and the Edelchrome and some of these other devices. I just haven't personally used them yet, but I'm sure they're good too.
So tell me this. So if I'm setting up for a time lapse, a moving time lapse, what's the sweet spot for my settings in my camera? Is it like 200 of a second? Is it 1 second? Is it 2 seconds, 5 seconds? What's the thing that I really want to be looking for? Like,
it really all depends on what you're shooting.
Okay.
I mean, it's going to be different every single time. It really depends on your settings all depend on what you're shooting, what the subject is. If it's the Milky Way, or if it's clouds, or if it's people, or if it's cars, if it's a wide angle shot, if it's a telephoto shot. Are you shooting from a cliff? Are you shooting from the ground? Are things moving right past the camera? Every single variable will tell you what your settings need to be and how you need to set up the shot.
Oh, didn't even think of that. Okay, so if I wanted these really kind of cool clouds that are just kind of melting away into one another. I've seen a lot of your videos. It's just, I'm mesmerized by the clouds. I just want to watch them all day long. So what's the optimal setting shutter speed for those? For wide angle? Or is that a secret?
Well, it's not a secret, but it gets into it kind of just expands upon what I had mentioned before, where what type of cloud? Is it are you looking at a slow moving, stratosphere cloud that you can't even see it move across the sky? You have to wait and watch it, and it doesn't look like it's even moving. Or are you shooting fog? Are you shooting storm clouds rushing through? So, general rule of thumb: the faster or the quicker something is moving, the quicker you want your interval to be. That's my general rule of thumb. So if something is moving really fast, have your interval be really fast. If something is moving really slow, have your interval be a lot slower. So you can kind of ask yourself, how fast is that cloud moving? If you see it move right in front of you and it's moving really fast, maybe you want to do the shortest or the quickest possible interval. If you can't see the cloud moving, maybe you throw that, maybe you do like a 2 or 3 second interval, something like that.
Cool. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah. No problem. Yeah, it's all, people ask that all the time. For photography in general, people just say, hey, what settings do you use for this? Or what settings do you use for photography? And I'm like, or what lens do you use for photography? It's like, I don't know. Everything. every lens, like, whatever. The settings just change every single time, and
be very careful.
It just really depends.
Be very careful when you say a statement like that to Dermot, right? So just use everything. Then it's like, see, I knew I needed all those 25 lenses that I have on the shelf because Michael said I have to use everything. Do you know what I mean?
Thanks, Michael.
No, I guess I meant like, somebody asked me, what's my favorite lens for landscape photography? And I'm like,
Depends.
I don't really have a favorite. I just use the lens that is necessary for the thing that I want to shoot. Because I guess I don't have this obsession with gear. I don't care. I really could care less about cameras and lenses and all these things that keep coming out. Like, sure, I'll keep buying some of them for some of the features, but I look at these things as tools. Like a painter has their paint brushes. They're just tools. They allow me to do the thing that I want to do. I focus solely on the subject and what I want to create. It doesn't matter what camera I'm using or the the settings. It's all just technical details at that point. I just put all the effort into or I try and put more of the effort into the creative aspect. So when I get questions like that, where somebody's like, "What's your favorite lens?" I'm just like, I don't think about lenses that way. You know what I mean? They're just like,
I get you.
Do I need to shoot this telephoto or wide, or like, do I need a wide aperture? I mean, it all is
whatever you can utilize at the
elements
time.
I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Creating,
Cool.
Creating the.
So let's move over to your astro side of things. So in recent years, when Darren first introduced me to you, he showed me these time lapses that you have, and it wasn't just your normal kind of time lapses of the Golden Gate Bridge or this fog, but you also had astro in it. But not only can you shoot astro time lapses, your astrophotography, as in stills, are just, they're mind blowing. How even your panoramas of the big massive one, I think you had a 25 shot one before, and it's mind blowing. Like tell me a bit more about your portfolio on an astro side of things.
Recently, you know what, I've kind of moved. I still love taking photos of the Milky Way. It's still a part of my career, but I have moved a little bit away from it just to keep trying new stuff. Not to just shoot astrophotography all the time like I did. Like if you had asked me that same question in 2011, I would say all I shoot is astro. I literally, sleep during the day and shoot every single night. I was obsessed with shooting the Milky Way back then, and it was so much fun. And it still is fun, but I've just tried to move away and focus on other genres of photography and landscape. But the most recent night shots I did, the ones I did with Gavin were a lot of fun when we were shooting around Oregon and exploring and just having a lot of fun, just being delirious out in the field. And we were teaching our night sky masterclass.
Yes.
So we were exploring all the different techniques that have been kind of developed over the years and then that I've learned over the years, because when I first started, I was only shooting single exposures of the Milky Way, and they were really, really grainy because the cameras just didn't have the technology. Like when I first started shooting with the Mark II, or even before that, I think I shot some of my night sky stuff with one of my other cameras. I mean, the picture quality was not good at all, and so all the astrophotographers back then were constantly looking for various new techniques to reduce the noise and increase the quality. Now you can shoot an image of the night sky with a Sony a7R II and get an amazing image of the night sky in one single exposure. But back then we were always trying to find new ways of getting better quality out of the cameras, like stacking, and we would do long exposures, and the tracker came into place a lot for trying to get better quality. Now I've relied on that stuff less. A lot of my shots, if they can be single exposures, I'll just take one shot of the Milky Way and that's it. But you know what? One of my favorite ways of shooting the Milky Way and getting a little bit more quality is just doing panoramas. Panoramas is a lot of fun, and I don't just mean the galactic band panoramas. I mean just even if you wanted to get a vertical shot of the Milky Way, you could shoot one shot at 14 millimeters, and it's going to look great. Or it might look great depending on what you shot, your camera, and whatever. But if you shoot that same picture at, let's say, 24 millimeters, and instead of doing that vertical 14 mil shot, you did 24 mil horizontal shots, and you did 1, 2, and then 3.
Oh, yeah.
You combine those together, and suddenly you have more resolution, thus having a slightly cleaner file, because you're seeing less of that grain and less of that noise close up as if you had done the single exposure. So a lot of my tactics for reducing noise early on was doing panoramas of the Milky Way. I would shoot vertical panoramas. I would shoot those Milky Way bands. And that was my first technique that I tried to start getting better results with night sky, was doing these panoramas and also doing long exposures for the foreground. Then got into stacking, which was awesome for, I still do stacking now. The tracker, which I've used a lot less, is, it's a device that basically moves at the same rate as the Earth's rotation, giving you clean stars, so you could shoot the stars for like 5 minutes straight and not have any blur in the stars, and then you composite that in with a single shot of the foreground, and you get some good results that way. I personally haven't brought the tracker out with me in a while. Just I haven't found I've needed those results, but it's fun playing around with all the different techniques. I will say, night sky photography, out of all the out of all the different things that I've explored in landscape photography, that one's one of the more technical things that I've done. But you can still be creative with night sky photography too. I'm trying to think if I have shot night sky any other time besides that time with Gavin. I think that may have been the last time though that I did shoot night skies.
And you talk about Gavin Darren now, and he's a bit of a kind of a YouTube celebrity now at this stage with all his skits and everything. And you recently teamed up with him, like you said, to do the Milky Way. How was that experience, spending all that time with him, doing all these skits and everything, and having to work as a character rather than Michael Shainblum?
Gavin's super fun to hang out with. We really had fun together. Almost all of the annoyance that we had for each other was obviously manufactured. And part of this story that we told, or maybe he was more annoyed with me. I don't. It's really tough to piss me off. I'm usually a pretty happy person. I don't get pissed off easily. But it was interesting because I really don't like being on camera. It took so long to learn how to be even remotely comfortable in front of the camera by doing all these tutorials, especially like I'm releasing my Timelapse masterclass, and we spent like 3 years filming that. Wow. And it was just constantly this camera in front of my face, and oh my gosh, I think I've gotten a little bit used to it, but I'm a pretty introverted person. I'm very quiet. I'm really shy, and that just completely took me out of my comfort zone. Especially with Gavin, I was really worried when he asked me to be a part of that. I was kind of worried that I wasn't going to be able to be natural in front of the camera, or that I would be too nervous or shy to kind of make it work. But it ended up being really fun. The way he did it made it fun. And when he would start filming, it was always a blast doing those skits. Like, we just had such a good time, and half the time we would do the skits and forget about the photography, which to a certain extent is almost a nice change of pace. Like, he kind of taught me also. He definitely took me out of my comfort zone with, me. I definitely felt a little bit uncomfortable with like doing some of the jokes at first, and then I just kind of was like, let's just do it.
Yeah, man, you rolled
whatever you want to do, man. Like the peanut allergy thing, that.
That was brilliant.
Let's just do whatever you want, man. Like you literally just any joke you want to do, let's go for it.
He seems
when
like,
you came
and it
along
ended
with
up being really fun.
When you came along with the red Epic, do you know that big massive camera onto the beach?
Yeah.
That was, I nearly keeled over crying with that one. It was absolutely, it was one of my favorites. Definitely.
That one was, I think actually okay, I could be wrong. I think the idea to push over the red was actually mine.
Wow.
I need to go back to that. I think that was my idea. And it's my buddy Joe's camera. So
did you really push
what
it
we
over?
were doing is, the whole reason we had the red is because we were filming a commercial up the Oregon coast for a client, and Joe, he's a professional filmmaker, and that's his entire career is doing these really beautiful commercial videos for clients. And so he owns a red and some lenses, and what we were doing was we were filming a commercial and then also doing some behind the scenes stuff with the red when we had some time, and we were just like, oh man, there's so much we can do with this right now. Let's like make a joke that I actually got a film crew and a red, a guy with the red to come out with me. Really, that whole shoot, that whole trip with Joe, that was me also, just wanting to be a filmmaker and be behind the camera. But we kind of played it off like, I wonder if anyone actually believed that
I'd say a lot of people
like
did.
That was true.
I'd say a lot of people definitely did.
Yeah.
That like I invested in this like film crew to go do. You know what? Honestly, if there was a company that wanted to partner and like actually put production into the vlog, I would say yes. The reason is I'm really bad at filming myself. Nick and Gavin and Thomas, they're incredible at filming themselves and getting good content out of that and just doing it in a professional way. I am terrible at filming myself and terrible at vlogging. Like I think I've sort of made it seem like I'm okay at it by adding voiceover and by like working all the mistakes that I've made. But those guys are, that they're so natural, and I'm just,
Do you know what?
I'm just trying my best.
Do you know what you need actually? No, right? Just now that I think about it, is you need a Greg Snell. You just need a Greg Snell that's going to follow you around, going to get all the footage the whole way through, buttery smooth, and make you look awesome.
There you go.
That'd be cool. I mean, I would love to make more. So we've done that with the tutorials. Like the whole time-lapse tutorial, we had a filmer because I can't film myself and then record. Like the whole thing is 12 hours.
Wow. Jesus.
Like I couldn't film myself and work professional audio equipment and also, be trying to teach people how to do like set up intricate time lapses before sunrise. Like if I had done all that, I would have failed every single time.
Yeah.
So we had a filmer for that, and he did an amazing job. And so I kind of did say to myself, it would be fun to vlog and do this collaboratively with somebody who's actually filming more. I feel like that would work better for what I do, not because I think I deserve somebody to be filming me, more just because I'm so bad at it myself. Like it's my own fault. But I just doing the whole, holding the camera up and talking into it, I'm so bad at it. I just can't do it, Anyways, yeah, that would be awesome though.
Yeah, it would be.
I'd love to do that more.
It would be, yeah.
Have somebody help out with that stuff.
And one other thing actually that I realized now that you mentioned it there a second ago is that, when we had Adam Gibbs on the podcast as well, he said exactly the same thing about Gavin. He said, I wouldn't have done it, but I said, sure, yeah, whatever. I'll do whatever you want me to do. You name it. Okay, let's do it. He must have that effect, you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, I'll do it. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Adam, I think for a lot of that, like he just has fun. Gavin's just a fun person to shoot with. Sure. And we just joke around, and he's definitely got a more polarizing personality than I do, just in general. Like he's a little bit more, I'm like I'm the type of person that, I blend into the crowd really easily, and I try to go. I kind of have tried most of my life to go unnoticed,
Yeah, go one way while everyone else is going the other.
Like I kind of try and, but I've done that for most of my life just because I really don't like being the center of attention, and I've always, been uncomfortable with the attention. And so it's a little, I don't know if you'd call it ironic that now I'm in the position that I'm in.
It is ironic.
But it's just fun. Like with Gavin, it felt natural and it felt comfortable, and it's just so fun. Like I got so excited watching that stuff back. Like I got so excited knowing that the stuff that we shot, I was going to be able to see on YouTube and see how it came out, because when we filmed it, it was so fun and so funny. And I knew that Gavin, with the timing and with his music, I mean, he just like he just, everything we shot, I don't know how he does it, but he just makes it so funny. It's the comedic timing and the story he's able to build through it all. When I record my own vlogs, like half the time I have the footage and I'm like, I don't know what to do with this. Like, I don't know if this is even of any benefit to anyone. I don't know if anyone's going to enjoy what I'm saying. I like listen to a minute or two of me talking and say, like, did I just ramble about nothing? Are people just going to like dislike the video? Like, what's this guy talking about? He's not even shooting pictures, delete. Whereas like, with him, it just felt fun the whole time. It just felt natural. So I'd like to do more of that and have a little bit more comedy in the videos, but the videos that I do. But I think I need to work with somebody. I can't do it alone, you know?
Come here. Look, we better go for one more quick break, guys, and we'll come back, and we want to talk more about your video cascade when we come back. All right, so guys, a quick word from our sponsor.
Are you tired of running out of power at that crucial moment? Do you need to charge 2 batteries simultaneously or charge on the go while in your car? The award-winning ProCube 2 from Hainel has got you covered. Available for Canon, Nikon, Sony and Panasonic. Visit hainel.ie.
And you're very welcome back to the Irish Photography Podcast, and we still have Michael Shainblum with us. And now we're going to ask Michael about a video that he made back in 2018 called Cascade. And myself and Darren went down to a place in County Cork called Mullinhassig, and Darren was wearing his waders and wanted to make a replica of your video called Cascades with his iPhone in the water. So he wanted to do these kind of slow motion effects. Now, fair play to Darren, he made a valid point to go get this, and he did quite well for understandably using an iPhone. But what I want to know is, what did you do to make Cascade, and what was the thought process behind it?
The start of it was, I really wanted to get into shooting slow motion video. I thought it would be a lot of fun, and I had so many ideas of things that I wanted to shoot in slow motion, kind of in the same way that I have a lot of ideas I want to explore in time-lapse. So I really wanted to shoot slow motion, so I picked up a little camera, started shooting some slow motion footage with it, and I realized, water, I love the Columbia River Gorge. I wanted to do a big trip up there again, and I had shot so much photography in there and time-lapse, and I realized with waterfalls, you can get a decent waterfall shot through time-lapse, but it's so much more interesting in slow motion.
Yeah.
Because when you're watching a waterfall, or when you're watching waterfall in general, not just a waterfall, but watching water
move,
the movement of water, there are so many little patterns that you can't see with your eye.
Even the texture of it is just crazy.
Yeah, so many intricate little patterns and textures and lines and shapes. And that video really allowed me to explore that almost in macro detail. So a lot of the shots in there were macro. I went to every waterfall I possibly could during a 2 or 3 week period. I went to that. I think I went to like 30 waterfalls during that trip in Oregon and southern Washington, and it was just so much fun. And that was a video more for fun, like the quality of it. It is 1080p and it's a little less. The quality might be a little less than my time-lapse videos and aerial, but it was really more of an exploration to see, the creativity and just to get familiarized with shooting high frame rates.
Yeah.
So yeah, I did that project, and water was my focus, and Oregon was the main focus of the video, and I just hadn't seen that done before. I'd seen slow motion videos of waves and the ocean and surfing and snowboarding, and I had just never seen waterfalls in one area, and I hadn't seen it done in a way that was a little bit more abstract with the underwater footage as well. Like most people aren't, at the time, I don't think we're trying to do half above, half underwater shots at the waterfalls. That was more of like a, hey, go to a tropical beach and do that type of scene. So I just thought it would be fun to explore. Since then, I've gotten really into slow motion filming with larger cameras. So shooting with Joe and shooting with the Red, we did a lot of slow motion footage on the Oregon coast. So I'm really excited because we're going to release that footage in 4K, and that's like, I think a lot of that we shot 250 frames per second in 4K, and it looks
Jesus
so cool. I'm super excited for that. So one of my friends who I met in college lives up the street, and he's actually he actually is another filmmaker, and we go around with a Red and have been trying to explore some different projects too. So we've done some pretty cool slow motion footage in Yosemite in the snow, and some of that footage will be coming out here soon too. So I have a lot of slow motion footage coming out that I haven't I haven't really shared with anyone. In similar style to that Cascade video, but with a little bit more production quality, I would say.
Speaking of similar style to Cascades, and with not as good a production quality was what I had made. So I mean, look, it was phenomenal. It blew me away with the moment I saw it. It was actually a guy called Mally Davis that put me onto it. And if you don't know Mally Davis, you will know Mally Davis soon, because everybody knows Mally Davis. He's the man of the hour these days. But City, there you go. Yeah, exactly. So, he had turned me on to in regards to it. And I remember at the time sending it on to Dermot and said, Dermot, you know what we're going to do? We're going to watch this and we're going to watch it together. If you remember that, we did it over Skype.
Yeah.
And it was crazy because the same points that we both reacted at the same point, even when it reached the crescendos, the difference in regards to the change of the scenes and such like
even
that.
The music.
Shooting of the music, and let's speak about the music in a second, because what I loved about the videos, it wasn't just, as you say, water moving in slow motion. It was under the water, it was over the water. You had mist that was going through the air as well, and you had focused and pulled focus onto the mist, and it was like all in sequence with this incredible piece of music. And when I said to Dermot, I said, you know what, man, I want to try that. You want to help me? He said, yeah, okay, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to do it with my phone. He went, you want to do it with your phone? I said, well, it's the only thing that I have that's going to be waterproof, so let's go do it. So we went off out, and in fairness, Dermot did a phenomenal job of being my wingman on the day, and really got some great footage as well of me filming it in the way that I wanted to film it, which was dressed head to toe and waterproof. So I was basically in the water with my phone. I had it on 240 frames per second. But when I got back then, I got all to put it together. I went, okay, I want to do this. And then I went, it needs the music. And I said, you know what? I can't really not use the music, but I can't use the music. Whatever. I'm using the music. So as Dermot mentioned a second ago, it worked perfectly. And no, it wasn't perfect, but it was perfect for what I did on the phone, let's just say. But it's something that I never thought that I'd give the example that I'd be, sitting here looking at you saying, Michael, that was phenomenal. It was one of the first things really that got me, like I said, tuned into you and your channel and what you do from a creative point of view. But since then, Timelapse, as well as you said, has just been absolutely phenomenal. So thank you for creative, for igniting the creative spark in me for that.
It's I just create what I think would be fun, and hopefully people enjoy it. And I've been really, that's been one of my favorite things to see is somebody sends me a nice message and they're like, you know what, looking at one of your images or your time lapse, it really brightened up my day. I was having a bad day, and like I had somebody on Instagram, I think it was 2 days ago, they were mentioning they'd been going through a tough patch. They were really depressed, and one of the things that they like to do is just check out my images and time lapses, and it made them feel a little happier. And that was really special to hear. That really meant a lot, because when I first started photography, it was totally all just for me when I started, and it's still to a certain extent. I shoot photography because it makes me happy. It cures any stress that I have in my life, most of it. But it really means a lot that other people have that reaction to some of the things that I've created. I mean, it blows my mind every time.
So, Michael, what I'd love to know is, shooting the Cascade, right? You had the camera submerged in the water, yeah? How did you do that to get it in the water and then out of the water? Like, what equipment did you use?
Or is that secret? Had underwater housing for the camera. Yeah,
I have two of them
housing, and some shots were purely underwater. Some shots were the camera underwater coming out of the water. Some were the camera out of the water going back in the water. I was playing around with different techniques for that. Yeah.
And did you have it on a slider at any stage under the water? No, it was just handheld.
No, it was all handheld, but also one of the things to remember. Well, two things is, one, if you're filming in slow motion, the slower your motion is, the more smooth a pan or a tilt could be.
Yes, I get you.
So that is nice, that aspect of it. I still tried to be as stable as possible, but most of that was handheld. And then with the underwater, water makes it even slower and more smooth, right? Because when the camera's going in water, it's kind of floating. So you're already on almost like a gimbal at that point when you're filming in water. It's so smooth. You wouldn't need any sort of stabilization for that.
Yeah. And would, like, when I'm using my gimbal now on my Canon EOS R or whatever, and I try to do slow motion footage, I still tend to stick the warp stabilizer on it just in case. And like, I probably don't even need it, but like, do you do that as well, just out of curiosity, or is it just me being over kind of cautious maybe?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the stuff I film is handheld too. Just with the DSLR, like a lot of my vlogs, I just shoot handheld footage, and if there's a little bit of shake, I'll apply some warp stabilizer. I've done some motion tracking stuff in After Effects. That gets a lot more complicated.
Yeah.
For certain shots, but and then some shots I guess can just be shaky. Some shots
they're supposed to be. Yeah.
That is one thing to remember is not everything needs to be silky, smooth gimbal shot. I mean, certain people film a little with the handheld look to give it a certain aesthetic or tell a certain story. So I've kind of embraced that to where if there's a little bit of camera shake, it's okay. Yeah. It just really depends on what I'm trying to film, Yeah. I do have a gimbal, but to be honest, don't bring it around a ton.
Okay.
Unless I have a very specific video project idea that I want to do. Like all the vlog stuff I've done has just been handheld so far.
Michael, when we have our guests on the show, right, there's a couple of things that we normally ask them. And one of the things we normally ask our guests is to give us a funny photography story. But, something that I'm thinking about here is maybe, if you don't mind, I think we should change it actually with you. Because when you were out and about on the last, as you mentioned a couple of times, on the trip there with a certain Mr. Gavin Hardcastle. Gavin Hardcastle? Maybe Gavin Hardcastle. I'm not quite sure. But, you had a number of laughs that were through that. And I'm sure, you probably have something on the opposite side of what we saw on the camera. So how about I change it round? How about you give us some dirt on Mr. Hardcastle? Because, he normally is very good at dishing it on other people. So we'll try and turn the table a bit here on our friend, yeah?
Yeah, his Gavin, well, a lot of what he does is obviously, he's a little bit of a character. But yeah, definitely the flatulence that he has on the episodes and stuff, none of that's fabricated. That's all that's some real stuff right there. That's especially in my vlog when I did the whole sandals bit where we were like disposing of his sandals because they, we were like, oh my god, these are putrid, they've been through swamps and whatnot. That fragrance was, you could bottle that. If somebody wanted to poison somebody else, you could bottle that fragrance from his sandals.
Oh my god!
And just put it in a room with somebody, and it may actually be a homicide.
Could be used as a lethal weapon. A weapon of mass destruction. Yeah. Oh, that's rotten.
And he offered to send those sandals over to you in last week's podcast as well, Darren. So do you really want to think that you could accept them?
No, I put a block on the Canadian postage, so there's nothing coming my way. No way, Jose.
I think he threw those away. I think that was yeah. I think he even agreed. He was like, yeah, we should probably throw these away. He knew. Got a new pair at what was it, Fred Meyer?
Fred Meyer. What's Fred Meyer?
Yeah, it's like a supermarket.
All right, okay, yeah, cool. All right, so, Michael, my favourite part of the show is called the VSP. For all our new listeners that are listening, a VSP is a very solid product. It's something that we give the gold seal of approval. We have tested it. It's not something that's just fabricated, that it's just, I think it's going to be good. It's something that is actually really good and that you can't leave home without it, or it's your thing that you go to in your camera bag. What is your VSP?
Yeah, I would say mine is a roll of gaff tape, black gaff tape. And this kind of comes more from being in production. Like everyone, if you're shooting in a video team, like everyone has gaff tape. You gotta have gaff tape. It's gonna be your problem solver for almost every scenario. If you need to tape literally anything, if something breaks, you can gaff tape it up. If you need to tape lights because you're shooting night sky, you tape up the lights. If you need to, pretty much.
Gaffer
Like
tape
if you,
it is.
even if you don't have a tripod, like one time I was shooting in Yosemite and I had a tripod, but there was a camera position I wanted to put my camera in a very specific position for a night sky time lapse.
Yeah.
And the tripod just wasn't fitting in the right spot. So I gaff taped my entire camera to like a ledge area. And
Dangerous.
I just left it there and then I taped my intervalometer to a rock too. And it stayed there for 5 hours. And then I stopped the time lapse, took the tape off, and yeah, so that would be my recommendation. Always have
Gaffer
a roll
tape.
of gaff tape with you. You never know when you're going to need just a little bit of tape for a shoot or a project. Yeah.
That's awesome. I actually really like that VSP because I like the affordable VSPs, not like Mazda's 5D RS or whatever it is. Don't get me wrong, I love the camera.
It was like $10, something like that. It's not expensive, and you can buy it in big bulk too. So
that's
works
right.
out
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
nice.
Brilliant, excellent. So we'll move over to our next segment. So we put out a bit of a mail there privately to a few people that we knew that follow your work, and we asked them to see if they wanted to ask any questions. So there's one girl I know from Mayo. Her name is Mary, right? And she wants to know: have Michael Shainblum ever visited Ireland?
I have not, but I would like to, very much so. I have been to Scotland on a trip. I did not make it over to Ireland, though, but I would like to. It is on my list.
Okay, brilliant. You better look us up when you get here, and we'll show you around.
Definitely.
Another question actually we got, but it's actually come from a name I think I recognise. It's a Mr. Hardcastle, a G. Hardcastle. And he says that you created a great astrophotography course, but you never seem to promote it. That's a very strange question, I think, for us to get. But anyhow, yeah, Michael, yeah, what's the...
I don't know what he's talking about. I just when did this come out? When did he ask this?
Oh, I got it around 4 days ago, I'd say.
I've been working. I'm working on stuff. Well, okay, I'm gonna promote it right here. Everyone, please go check out Gavin and my Night Sky Masterclass. You'll learn a ton about filming. What am I talking? Photographing the night sky. All sorts of techniques. No, I'm working on it.
Fair play, yeah.
I did like a tutorial sale, and we're trying to, I've got some things in the mix.
Cool.
Mr. Hardcastle will be happy to hear that answer, no doubt, yeah.
Frank wants to know, what would be the one thing you would do differently now that you didn't do starting out?
Well, early on, I wouldn't have changed anything. I loved, just the exploration of taking pictures and not worrying about it. I think it would be different now with social media, because it seems like it's almost at this point a trend or a competition with social media. Like, it never felt like that early on, where there was any sort of competitiveness, or, if it wasn't like a cool thing to be, it was cool to me, but it wasn't like a trendy or popular or awesome thing to be a photographer.
Okay.
And, now it's like almost with Instagram and social media, it's almost like you're like you can be a photography celebrity and be followed, and people think you're, almost like a little mini celebrity. And I don't know. I don't feel like that's healthy, that aspect of it.
Okay.
I don't like that aspect very much, and I feel like that leads to bad habits, if that makes sense. So I don't know. I maybe fell into it a little bit with, like, kind of midway through my career, where I grew a little bit of an ego. And also, like, I was being self-conscious about what people were saying on social media. Like, there was a time where my Facebook page was really popular, and it would, I would release a photo and it would reach about 500,000 people.
Ooh.
And I got a lot of hate mail during that time when those photos were popular. I get a lot of, like, I had people like, your photos suck, you suck. Like, they'd make it personal too. And I shouldn't have. Don't listen to the negative comments and just create the art for yourself. That's the biggest thing. Create the art for yourself. Don't fall into the trap of, getting worked up by other people's comments if they don't like your pictures. Just keep taking pictures, keep exploring. And I would just, the advice for anyone I would give getting started now with how popular social media is you can use social media as a tool and be social on it and connect with other people, but don't fall into that trap. And if the whole reason of why you're getting started in photography is because you want to gain fame through it, that I think that's the wrong way to go about it. Like, the art should come first, the photography should come first, then this whole social media game can come after if you want to play that game. You know what I mean? I think it's important for everyone to, like, all photographers to kind of embrace a little bit of social media or have an online presence, but don't let that consume what you're doing at all. I think
great
that's
answer.
Super unhealthy. That's what I would say, because
totally
I fell into it for a little bit there, and
happy days. So come here, can you tell us more about where we can find your work? What's your Facebook handle, even though you said you don't really like it anymore, and your YouTube channels? Where can we go to find Michael Shainblum?
Yeah, I have all the things that people like to, all the different platforms that people like to do all their social media-ing. YouTube, Michael Shainblum, Facebook photography page is Shainblum Photography. I'm on Instagram too. I think if you just type my name in to Google, because I have a really weird name. Like most, no one besides my family has my last name. So if you type in my last name, I just show up because
Yeah, that's cool. That's actually very handy.
Yeah, most of my family members don't have social media, so I'm just the only one who shows up, which works out to my benefit. So if you pop my last name into Google, you can find literally any of my Facebook or YouTube or my website or all the other social media platforms that I've, some of them regrettably, created over the years, Cool.
You're right. It does work in your benefit to have not an odd name, but a different name than everyone else. It's like you have a unique email address.
Spoonley.
A Spoonley, exactly, his name. It's brilliant. So you're as an essential identity on your own. So
yeah,
it's great.
It's a weird name, but I like it. I've
I wouldn't say
my
weird.
Entire life, so.
Yeah. Well, wait, actually, just before we're coming towards the end now, but where did Shainblum originate from? Is it an American name? Is it French? Is it Canadian? I don't know.
Yeah, it's from my dad, and he's from Quebec City, Canada.
Okay.
Yeah, and he's also French, so I think it's a French Canadian name or French name. Yeah. Okay,
that's cool. That's awesome. Yeah. That's awesome. All right, so Michael, thank you very much. I've really, really enjoyed this episode of the podcast. I mean, it's been great to get inside your head to see what makes you tick, how to do time lapses, astrophotography, all that crack, all that jazz. I mean, I really enjoyed the last hour and a half talking to you, man. It's been a blessing having you on. Thank you so much. We really do appreciate it.
I really appreciate you guys having me on. This is super fun, and I had a blast chatting, and hopefully I didn't ramble too much. Hopefully people weren't sitting there like, man, is he going to get to the point of his answers? Sometimes I just have a thought, and I start out, I'm like, I'm answering the question, and I have a point of where I'm going to end it, and then I just trail off and forget where I was going.
That's what a typical Irish drunk does. So you're grand. You didn't do any of that. It's all good. It's all good.
Good to know.
Excellent stuff. Thanks a million for coming on, buddy. Really do appreciate it.
Awesome. No, thanks again for having me. And I'm down to do another chat anytime. Let me know.
Awesome.
Michael, it was fantastic. Yeah, thanks a million for everything. And yeah, from everybody here in Ireland to you in San Francisco, stay safe and Shlong the Fold.
Stay safe.
Hey guys, if you dig what you're hearing, why don't you jump over to iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. give us a 5-star rating, and don't forget to share with your friends. With all that done, we'll see you next week, and remember, keep shooting.